It's with great pleasure that I welcome all of you to this historic meeting of the M20, a group that we have collectively birthed today in order to jointly deal with the challenges that the media faces across the G20 region and beyond. Now, it's in the nature of international politics that multilateral associations are born or die or linger on despite losing relevance, or survive and flourish by imbuing new meaning and purpose to their agenda. The G20 was born in the aftermath of the 2008 world financial crisis, and its rather arbitrarily chosen members have since sought to widen the arc of their cooperation to the social sphere, to gender, the environment, and so on. The Indian presidency of the G20, which began at the end of last year and will continue till the end of this year, reflects this positive desire to broaden the group's agenda and more clearly articulate the standpoint of the Global South. But it is also negatively stamped by the government's desire to manage or even control the kind of discussions and debates that such a broadening of the agenda necessarily entails. So while there have been meetings of the W20 for women, the C20 for civil society, B20 for business, C20 for climate change, and so on, these have tended to be dominated by statist perspectives and subsumed under the overall goal of making the G20 summit something of a spectacle, a political statement of some sort, rather than an occasion for serious introspection and debate on the common challenges that we all face. Despite the media in the G20 countries and beyond facing many common problems and threats, none of the G20 governments, and certainly not the current rotating president, appear particularly interested in the question of media freedom being debated. And perhaps that's just as well, because in the current scenario of polarized politics and polarized media, it might not have been too difficult for someone to put together an M20 of media groups that do not quite believe in the importance of defending press freedom for media that they do not like. Either way, it occurred to some of us here in the media in India, and we formed an organizing committee a few months ago to prepare for this M20 Media Summit, that we should take the lead ourselves and bring together colleagues from around the G20 so we could both have a conversation between ourselves or among ourselves on the problems that we face, and also send a clear message to the leaders of the G20 who will soon gather for their summit in New Delhi, that none of the problems that they hope to solve can be handled if the media in their countries are not free. So what are the common challenges that we face? There is, first of all, the problem of repression and the misuse of law to criminalize journalism. And examples of this were seen recently from Kashmir, where a news portal, the Kashmir Wala, was arbitrarily shut down, all the way to Kansas in the United States, where the Marion County Record was raided by a police party because of a story that it was doing. It is today next to impossible for independent news organizations to work in key G20 countries like Russia and China. In many countries across the G20 and elsewhere, journalists have been subjected to intrusive surveillance via spyware. States are also growing increasingly intolerant of whistleblower-driven investigations, as can be seen by the pursuit of Julian Assange or the recent conviction of an editor at the Helsinki Sanomat newspaper in Europe. And then there is the problem of a media business model which is under severe strain. This is a problem virtually all media platforms around the world face. Linked to this is the growing power of big tech intermediaries and what can be done about this. There is also the epidemic of fake news and disinformation. On the technology front, there is the challenge and opportunity presented by AI. These are the sort of issues we think the M20 needs to consider. And I hope that today's discussions will help equip us with greater insight into how to surmount the obstacles that we face, both individually and collectively. I must apologize for the virtual format of this M20 Media Summit, but we had no choice in the matter given the visa policies of the Government of India, which place a huge set of obstacles for the organizing of international conferences with international participants, particularly when the themes are deemed to be political, quite apart from the challenge that many foreign journalists face in getting visas to come to India as journalists. Nevertheless, we hope that the M20 process that we have put together, involving all of you across 9 time zones, will continue even after today, and that our colleagues in Brazil, which has the rotating presidency for the G20 in 2024, will work towards organizing an M20 gathering next year.